vaccination. Which of the following is applicable at the age of 5 years? Language of the question may be different. At few places the choices may not be as exactly came in the paper, but let's look at the choices. We'll have to continuously press it 4 times. Okay, these were the choices, 4 choices. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's not per se look at the choices. Let's look at the best possible answer. Then we will discuss which of them is correct. Okay, suppose these are the choices. Which of them is the best possible answer in this? A, B, C or D? See, read the question first sentence. According to latest guidelines, answer is D for Delhi. It is DPT booster plus vitamin A at 5 years of age. What are the changes in the National Immunization Program of India in last 2 years? It is the question based on exactly the changes in new guidelines. So what are the new changes in the immunization schedule? 3 or 4 changes? Yes. One thing is at 5 years, DT has been replaced by DPT. We have adopted the IAP guidelines. Now DPT is permitted after 2 years of age. It's also given at 5 years of age in India. So you can give it 5 to 6, maximum up to 7 years of age in India. Vitamin A is given till 5 years now. Second change in the program after DPT at 5 years? Measles. 2 doses of measles have been added. First dose of measles is regularly given at 9 months and second dose is given at 18. It is actually 16 to 24 months along with DPT and OPV booster. Third change, which was an older change, at 16 to 24 months, Japanese encephalitis live vaccine has been added in the national immunization schedule, only given in 4 states of India. Now this is a catch we have to remember. Japanese encephalitis has been included in national immunization schedule, but currently implemented only in 4 states of India. Maybe within next 1 or 2 years they'll shift to whole of India. Any other recent change in the national immunization schedule? National schedule. I'm looking at this question correctly because it has appeared in the textbook of PARC also, 22nd edition, and I've included all these changes in my 5th edition also. If you look at the recent changes in PSM in last few years, annexure given in my book, I've included this. The 4 changes, tetanus toxoid, we know 2 doses given to primary gravida has a protection duration of 5 years, but Government of India will now consider it to be only 3 years. So any other pregnancy in next 3 years of a fully immunized pregnancy, only 1 booster dose is sufficient, but after 3 years, again it has to be complete course 2 doses. So these are the changes we have to memorize in the program. I'll just ask them to get this done also. Wait a second. Ramesh, काम नहीं कर रहा, स्लाइड बढ़ाने वाला कैसे काम करेगा यार, बिल्कुल काम नहीं कर रहा, सेल बदलो. Right, so these are the changes we were discussing. Measles, JE Live, DPT booster, vitamin A. Is MMR given in the National Immunization Schedule of India? No. MMR, hepatitis A, HIV is not given. But a pentavalent vaccine has been introduced on a trial basis in Delhi, in which Haemophilus influenza B has been added. If it works out fine, very soon it will be included in the National Immunization Program of India. Okay, risk of mother to child transmission of HIV in pregnant women at the time of delivery and after delivery. This question we got various versions. So I'll tell you all the possible answers. Let's look at the choices. Let's look at the question. Then I'll tell you the all possible situations they can ask, all possible answers we can have. Suppose these are the question. This is the question and these are the choices. What should we mark in this? Yes. Risk of mother to child transmission in developing countries is 30%. Developed countries 20%. If I look at a single median value, in developing countries it's 30%, developed countries it's 20%. If breastfeeding is done, then 15% additional risk will be there. So suppose a question is like this: risk of mother to child HIV transmission in pregnant women at the time of delivery and after delivery in breastfeeding women, 45% around. Right, so it will be around 45% total. So what should be the total rate of transmission in India? Will it be 30% or 45%? 45%, because HIV positive mothers have to breastfeed in developing countries according to WHO guidelines. India is also following them. Developed countries, they say we can do good formula feeding, there is no need of natural breastfeeding. They only restrict it to 20%. Then when you start prevention, suppose in India we are using 3 modalities: nevirapine, zidovudine and cesarean section. Which of them is best? Zidovudine. So if I give zidovudine to HIV positive mother and its newborn, what will be the final rate of transmission? Nevirapine, zidovudine reduced by 66%. So 30% if you look, it will become. Let me ask a question format. Post zidovudine prophylaxis, what will be the final rate of HIV transmission mother to child in India? 10%. 30% is the existent rate. If you give zidovudine to mother and child, it will cut down transmission by 66%. So final rate of transmission will be 10. If I add elective cesarean section in that, zidovudine plus elective cesarean, see, cesarean section has a efficacy of 50%. 10% is the rate of transmission, and if you add elective cesarean, it will become 5%. This is the maximum reduction you can achieve in developing countries like India. If you look at Harrison, if you look at the data which is available through WHO, in developed countries you can maximum reduce the transmission up to 3.2%. So developed countries can reduce the transmission of HIV mother to child by using different modalities up to 3.2%. Beyond this they cannot reduce, they cannot make it 0. India, we are able to make it maximum 5%. Beyond this we cannot reduce. So this is in case question is asked in different format. In India, breastfeeding is definitely permitted. This what we have discussed. This is the ranges which has been given by WHO based on these studies. In developed countries 15 to 25, developing countries 25 to 35% of HIV. You can take this presentation, no need of noting it. Okay, this was a question not true about screw feed technique. First thing, what is it a technique of? Technique meant for biomedical waste management. Let's look at the choices. Suppose these are the 4 choices exactly. 80% volume reduction, pathological waste are removed, weight is decreased by 20 to 30%. It is based on non-burn thermal treatment. They are asking which of them is not true. Answer is B. Screw feed technique is a non-burn thermal treatment. See, when you are treating waste, you have 2 options. One is you can use dry treatment, you can use wet. This is the dry treatment. Wet treatment will be almost similar to autoclaving, where you use steam as a sterilizer. So this is the dry thermal, non-burn thermal treatment. 80% is volume reduction. Weight is actually reduced by 20 to 35%. If you go strictly by the values, it's 20 to 35. But it is definitely never used for pathological waste. It is never used for cytotoxic waste also. And it is never used for radiological waste. So 3 types of waste it cannot be used: pathological waste, cytotoxic waste, radiological waste. So 3 waste it is of no use. If you look at the counterpart of screw feed technique, that is the wet thermal treatment. Wet thermal treatment can be used for these pathological waste, but that is not used for anatomical waste. So wet treatment is not useful for anatomical waste, pharmaceutical waste. Wet treatment, that is known as wet, WET, I think we'll find here. So this is screw feed technology we have been discussing. It's not useful for pathological, cytotoxic, radioactive. Whereas wet treatment is not useful for anatomical. When I am saying anatomical, it also includes animal waste. So anatomical, animal, pharmaceutical, it should not be used, and also not used for chemical. Wet treatment is not used for animal, anatomical, chemical, pharmaceutical waste. What do we do? See, it's screw feed. Screw, all of us know, has a rotating movement. So they put waste in a big drum and then they crush it by rotating. So what we are saying is a rotating auger is actually the screw you are tightening. So it disintegrates. This question again, we got different versions. Let's look at all. See, statistics is exactly like this. Either the question will be very easy or it will be a new question like Q test, which we may not have heard earlier because statistics itself is a big subject. But let's suppose the question is like this. These are the choices. You just have to read question again. Answer is A. Read question again. How much population falls between median and median plus 1 standard deviation? It's not saying median plus minus 1 standard deviation. See, only AIMS is such the paper where the language of the question and individual choices are very important. We'll come across one question where frankly there was no other answer, but we have to mark some answer. So let's look at this question. If it was mean and median plus minus 1 standard deviation, then answer is 68%. Median plus minus 2, 95, plus minus 3, 99. But they are asking median and median plus. So in all probability they are referring to the right side of the normal distribution. So if normal distribution is bilaterally symmetrical bell shaped, they are looking at only the right side. I hope all of us are aware of this diagram. So what they are saying is this and this, not the total 68%, but only on the right side, 34%. If I replace word median with mean in this question, answer will be same. So this all of us know. These are the all facts based on which we can solve any question on normal distribution. Bilaterally symmetrical bell shaped, mean, median and mode coincide. So whether they say mean, median, mode, value has to be exactly same. 50% lie above mean, mean plus minus 1 covers 68. So mean plus will only cover the right side. If you want to be precise, this is 68.3, 95.4, 99.7. And if I am looking at coverage of all 100% values, not possible. Infinite standard deviations, none of the above, right? So this was actually one of the easy questions of the paper. Let's see. Another easy question. Look at this question. It's an easy question to mark. Point 5. It's a normal distribution. They're asking how many values lie above mean. See, when such questions come and when we are reconstructing questions with students, some students were of the view that normal distribution was not mentioned in the question. Let it be. Suppose it's not there. I believe it should be there. In case it's not there, then you have to remember one thing. Majority of biological parameters follow a normal distribution. So even if they don't mention weight, height, hemoglobin, pulse rate, most of them follow almost normal distribution. Similarly, in a question, if they do not specify the confidence level, confidence interval, your answer should always be based on 95% confidence limit. Always it should be based on this because that is the commonest used. If they do not specify the standard deviation, then your answer should always be based on 2 standard deviation because globally that has been accepted as the norm. So sometimes they may not mention this in the question, but a good examiner will always keep the question very clear. So having a normal distribution, 50% population will definitely lie above mean. One of the easy questions. Now this was a question. Q test is used for detecting. Different students gave different choices again, but suppose these are the 4 choices. Then answer is? It was a new question. Answer is outliers. Outliers. What is an outlier? No, outlier is included in the distribution. Even then it is an outlier. Outlier means something which is on the outside margin. Outlier is an extremely low or high value in a distribution. Extremely low or high value in a distribution. Let's suppose, take an example. What should be the average IQ of all of us if we calculate? Doctors? Will be around 120 to 140. But suppose one of the students sitting in a class has an IQ of 250. That will be an outlier. Outlier is an excessively high or excessively low value in the distribution. If an outlier is present, then mean will not be a very good estimation of central tendency. So you generally go for median or mode. Which should you prefer, median or mode? For outliers, if they are present, you look at mode. But in biological studies, median is better. So how to solve this question? If nothing is mentioned, median is better than mode if outliers are present. But how do you identify outlier? Suppose they give you 10 values. Hemoglobin level of 10 children in a slum is as follows: 7.6, 7.8, 7.9.